It started with a knock at the door, just a casual Sunday, nothing unusual. I was in the kitchen, half distracted, scrolling through my phone when my younger sister called out, "Hey! My friend's here." I barely looked up. I didn't even know she was expecting anyone. A few seconds later, a voice followed, a warm, familiar kind of tone. "Hi. I'm Layla." I turned around, and there she was. She smiled at me, confidently, almost too confidently. Something about her eyes held a weight, a kind of knowing that didn't make sense at the time. I smiled back, not realizing that from that moment on, everything in my world was about to shift. My sister had a lot of friends, always bringing people over from school, from work, from God knows where. I never paid too much attention. But Layla, she was different. She didn't fade into the background like the others. She stayed around longer. Asked more questions. Made more eye contact than most people are comfortable with. At first, I thought she was just friendly, open, maybe a bit bold. My sister said they'd met during a college project, and they'd instantly clicked. I believed it. Layla had a way of making you feel like you'd known her for years. Days passed, and Layla started showing up more often. Not just for my sister, but around me. At first, it felt harmless, chats over coffee, jokes shared in the kitchen, small moments that felt like nothing. But they added up. And slowly, without even realizing it, I started looking forward to seeing her. I felt guilty about that, because she was my sister's friend. That invisible line was always there, and I told myself I wasn't crossing it. We were just talking, right? But then one evening, everything changed. It was late. My sister had stepped out to grab something from the store. Layla stayed behind. We were sitting in the living room, the kind of silence between us that wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy. She looked at me, really looked at me, and said something I'll never forget, "There's something I haven't told you." My heart skipped. What followed shattered everything I thought I knew about her, about my sister, about the people closest to me. It wasn't just a secret. It was a betrayal. One that had been slowly unfolding right under my nose. She told me she was my sister's friend, and yet, the truth behind her reason for being in our lives wasn't what it seemed. Now, I can't even look her in the eye. You ever feel that chill when someone you thought you could trust shows you a completely different side? That moment where every word, every glance from the past suddenly rewinds and looks different? That's where I found myself, frozen, replaying it all, stuck in disbelief. And the worst part? My sister had no idea what was going on behind her back. But before I tell you what Layla confessed that night, you need to understand just how deep this story runs. I didn't know what to say to her. My mind was racing, but I just sat there, waiting for her to speak. Layla looked nervous for the first time since I'd met her. She kept twisting the ring on her finger and glancing toward the front door, like she was afraid someone would walk in. And then, she finally spoke, but it wasn't what I expected. She said, "I didn't come into your lives by accident." My chest tightened. What did that even mean? I asked her to explain, but she hesitated. She just said, "There's more going on than you think, and I never meant to hurt anyone." That only made it worse. My thoughts went to my sister. Had she been dragged into something? Was she in danger? Or was Layla keeping something from her too? The questions kept piling up. Layla had always acted like she was just another classmate, but now I was starting to wonder if she had some other reason for being here. Something personal. Something hidden. The more I thought about it, the more small things started to make sense. The way Layla always found excuses to be near me. The way she once mentioned something about my past, something I never told her. At the time, I brushed it off, thinking maybe my sister had said something. But now, I wasn't so sure. The timing, the closeness, the quiet glances, it all started to feel planned. And still, Layla wouldn't say exactly what she meant. Just that it had to do with something that happened years ago. Something connected to my family. That's when a different kind of fear crept in. What did she know? Why me? Why now? Whatever it was, I could feel it. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was personal. Too personal. I couldn't sleep that night. Every word Layla said kept repeating in my head. I didn't come into your lives by accident. What did she mean by that? I kept thinking about how perfectly she'd slipped into our world. The casual way she became part of our daily routine, how my sister trusted her blindly. And now I was wondering, had that trust been misplaced from the start? The next morning, I watched my sister laugh with Layla in the kitchen like nothing had changed. Layla looked completely normal, smiling, making coffee, acting like she hadn't just dropped a silent bomb the night before. It made my skin crawl. I wanted to confront her, but with my sister standing right there, I couldn't. So I pretended. I smiled back. I played along. But inside, I was unraveling. That day, I started digging. Not because I didn't trust Layla, but because I didn't know what to trust anymore. I asked my sister about how they met, trying not to sound suspicious. She gave the same story: group project, late-night study sessions, instant friendship. But when I checked my sister's college group photos from earlier that semester, Layla wasn't in any of them. Not once. It didn't add up. And then I remembered something else. Layla once mentioned my dad's old job, casually, like she'd heard it in passing. But I never told her. And my sister didn't even know that detail herself. That's when the pieces started falling into a new kind of picture. Layla didn't just randomly become friends with my sister. She came with a purpose. And now I was starting to wonder if she knew something about us, something buried. Maybe even something we didn't know ourselves. And worst of all, she wasn't the only one keeping secrets. The more I looked into Layla, the more cracks I found. Her social media was almost empty, barely any photos, no tags from mutual friends, and the few posts she did have felt curated. Clean. Too clean. Like she had wiped away any trail of a life before meeting us. I showed one of her pictures to an old friend of mine who used to work at the same firm my dad did years ago. What he said chilled me. He thought he'd seen her at a retirement event years ago, standing quietly near the back, not talking to anyone, just watching. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until my sister went to sleep and asked Layla to talk. Just us. She agreed, almost like she had been expecting it. We sat in the dim living room, the clock ticking louder than usual. I didn't even know where to begin. My voice shook as I asked, "Why are you really here?" She didn't deny it this time. Her face went still. Quiet. Then she said, "I knew your father." My stomach dropped. I asked her how. She said she couldn't explain it all yet. "It's complicated," she whispered. "But I was supposed to find you. I needed to know the truth for myself." My heart was racing. It wasn't just about friendship, or even betrayal anymore. It was something bigger. Something tied to my family's past. I asked her again, "What truth?" But she just looked at me, her eyes glassy, her jaw tense. "You were never supposed to find out this way," she said softly. "But you need to ask your father what happened in 2005. I froze. That was the year everything in our family changed. The year no one ever talked about. And suddenly, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Her words kept ringing in my ears, "Ask your father what happened in 2005. But the problem was, I couldn't. My father had passed away 2 years ago. He left behind more questions than answers, and none of us ever got the full truth about what went wrong in those final years. My mom never spoke about it. My sister was too young to remember much. And now Layla was pointing straight to that missing year, like it held everything together. I stared at her, confused and angry. Why would you wait until now? Why come through my sister? Layla looked down, as if ashamed. Because your father wasn't just someone I knew. He was the reason my family fell apart. My breath caught. She didn't say it with hate in her voice, it was sadness, mixed with something that felt like guilt. I needed answers. And you were the only way in. I felt sick. This wasn't about me, or my sister. Layla had used our family to dig up something we didn't even know was buried. And yet, the way she looked at me wasn't cold. It was almost like she didn't expect to get close. Like she hadn't meant to care. That confused me more than anything. I went to my mom the next morning. I asked her about 2005. She froze. Completely. Then she said something that hit me harder than I was ready for. You had an older half-brother. But we don't talk about him. What? My hands went cold. I never knew anything about that. No pictures. No stories. Just silence. And suddenly, Layla's words made sense in a terrifying new way. What if this wasn't just about her family and mine? What if it was my family? What if she wasn't just some girl my sister met at college? When I asked Layla again, she didn't answer right away. But then, with tears in her eyes, she whispered, I think we might be related. And I needed to know the truth, before I walked away for good. Everything stopped. Was she saying she might be my sister? The betrayal wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about blood. About lies that went deeper than I'd ever imagined. And now I was left wondering, had my entire family been hiding a truth they never intended me to find? Or had Layla come into our lives to force it out, no matter the cost? I stood there, numb, as Layla's words echoed in my head. I think we might be related. It didn't feel real. Everything around me, the walls, the room, even the air, suddenly felt unfamiliar. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I called my mom again, this time refusing to let her dodge it. I told her everything, about Layla, about 2005, and about the older half-brother she'd never mentioned until now. Her face went pale. Silent at first, then trembling. She finally broke. She told me about my dad's past. Before he met my mom, he had a relationship no one in our family ever talked about. It ended badly. The woman moved away. Years later, there were whispers that she had a child, his child. But by then, my dad had changed jobs, started a new life, and never spoke of it again. He tried to move on, my mom said softly, but part of him was always somewhere else. I just didn't want that part to follow us. It hit me like a wave. Layla wasn't lying. She'd spent her whole life trying to piece together where she came from, and when she found my dad's name, she followed the trail right to us. My sister was just the doorway, she never knew she was caught in something bigger. None of us did. I went to Layla again, this time with everything out in the open. She was crying before I even said a word. I didn't want to break your family, she said. I just didn't want to live with the feeling that I was a secret. And for the first time, I understood her pain. All the lies, the careful steps, it wasn't about revenge. It was about identity. We sat in silence, both overwhelmed, until she said something that made my heart stop. There's one more thing. I don't think I'm the only one. What do you mean? I asked, completely thrown off. She looked at me, her voice shaking. When I searched, I found another name connected to your father. A younger girl. About your sister's age. Just like that, everything flipped again. What I thought was the ending, wasn't. Layla might not be the only secret left in our family's shadow. And the truth we uncovered? It may just be the beginning of a much deeper story. I didn't know what to say after Layla told me there might be someone else, another half-sibling. My mind was already full, struggling to accept everything we had just uncovered. But somehow, I also knew she wasn't saying it to stir more chaos. She just wanted the truth, the whole of it, no matter how messy it was. And maybe, so did I. Over the next few days, things slowly started to settle. My mom, after years of silence, finally opened up about the past. She even showed me an old letter, one my dad had written but never sent. It was meant for Layla's mother. He had tried, at one point, to reconnect, but life got in the way. Jobs changed. Families shifted. And like so many things, it was buried under time and guilt. That letter proved one thing: he hadn't forgotten her. Layla decided not to search for the other girl right away. She said she needed time to heal, and so did I. We both agreed we'd keep talking, not as strangers brought together by secrets, but as people trying to rebuild something honest. My sister eventually found out too. At first, she was shocked and confused, but over time, she came to accept it. She was never just my friend, was she? She asked me one night. I shook my head. No. She was family, and we just didn't know it yet. Looking back, it all feels surreal. A girl who knocked on our door as a friend turned out to be my blood. A hidden past, full of unanswered questions, was finally brought to light. And although not every part of it was pretty, at least it was real. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: the truth has a way of showing up, even when we try to hide it. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a stranger's smile. Other times, it arrives like a storm, shaking everything you thought was safe. But either way, it's always better than living in the dark. So now, when I see Layla, I don't see the girl who betrayed our trust. I see someone who was just trying to find where she belonged. And in the process, helped me understand more about myself, my family, and what it really means to forgive. Because some stories aren't meant to stay hidden. Especially the ones written in our own blood. 46.